Welcome to Baxa Ljubljana. It's now the evening. I'm back in neutral Austria. Yes, it's neutral, but it's beautiful. I love it. It's just, we have this neutrality myth, which is the problem in Austria, because it has negative results on many other aspects of our life. We somehow, in Austria, people love Russia, think that Russia is a great power. They hate America. And that's all because of neutrality and because of this myth of the Soviet victory, as if not America would have done so much to make the Soviets sustain the German hammer blows in already from 41. And there is, unfortunately, the whole history of World War II is written completely wrong in the Austrian perspective and public mind. It's all the Soviet Stalinistic kind of direction, and this has to change. We have to learn the history of the World War II new from the American side, because in Germany they had less doubt. They were seeing the American effectiveness, but unfortunately, to the eastern location of Vienna, it would have been possible for Patton to liberate Vienna, Prague, but he was stopped by his political masters, by Marshall and Eisenhower, and also, of course, by first of all Roosevelt and then Truman. It was unfortunate, the premature death of Roosevelt, but also Roosevelt was very careful not to basically somehow have, in a way, friendly fire. And so the big, beautiful pearls of Central Europe, Berlin, Prague, Bratislava, Budapest, Vienna, they were all left for the Soviets. And it was an absolute disaster, but that was what it is. Now today we still have many problems in the Austrian-German relations because of that neutrality, and we have now a big debate about having allowed the transit of Slovenian tanks through the transit from the Graz. I showed you Graz on my podcast, and now I show you this road, and still Austrian connectivity with Germany is not good, and with Czech Republic it's not good. Austria is also a very close country. We have this road. It was a big achievement in my youth to have here a highway towards Wales. I remember, I was so happy, but still it's only 2 lanes. It should be a 3-lane highway. We should have a highway towards Prague. We still don't have it completed. We should have a highway towards Munich. We still don't have it. Because of environmental concerns and the land use. It's absolutely bullshit. We need a direct highway from Wales to Munich, because here you have to make a big round. It's totally bad. And the southern highway also must be extended on the Bavarian side from Munich to Salzburg. And we need also to think about the new railway tunnel. We have now the Brenner tunnel. It takes another 10 years to finish it, very expensive. It will be very good, the big railway tunnel, but we need a similar big railway tunnel through the Pyhrn, a big one, and through the Tauern. We need really to build much more railway tunnels. The Swiss are much better. And we need also to think to complete the whole Pyhrn. It's not completed today. It's bad. And this is also not good enough. We somehow underestimate what it means to integrate Ukraine in the European Union and the Balkans. These countries obviously should be prosperous. When they are prosperous, they need this Kantak, for example, is from Lithuania. Lithuania of all places is pretty far away. And he's driving now here around, it's good, We need also to have one market of mobility, We have, the only thing we do is to make some labor market protectionism, Everybody has to be paid the same, But still, the trucks, they can drive in all Europe, that's good, and cars obviously as well. But for example, rental cars, already much more complicated, Not driving everywhere, but to rent them out again, it's seemingly not allowed. And so that's a total mess what we have in Europe. In 2022, our internal market is still totally fragmented, and that's really very bad. And I cannot understand what we are waiting, this sleepy Europe. And here we need to have a good railway and a good, I think 2 more railways through the tunnels. It's absolutely necessary. ICE, that's the high-speed train of Germany. There should be ICE from Frankfurt towards Dubrovnik, towards Patras in Greece, towards Istanbul. Is there nobody left who is ambitious in Europe? The only thing Austria is doing really good, we have a speed limit of 130. I agree with it. The problem is, here comes the Germans, you know, they're obviously no longer used to a speed limit, and I go at the speed and they go of course much faster because they think this is still Germany, and it's not. But the border should be disappeared. There should be a real, fully functional internal market for capital, goods, services, people, absolutely in all aspects. A real competition, real efficiency and real freedom in the European Union, and obviously also Austria and all the missing parts who are not in NATO. It's anyhow only Austria, the non-NATO country in Central Europe, and Switzerland, the big mystery of Switzerland. That's a very messy place as well. But you know, it's at least not in the EU, so it has nothing to say. It just has to implement everything we want, and that's okay. That's a vassal status of Switzerland. Anyhow, I don't care so much for the Swiss. Honestly, I care for the Austrians and for the EU Europeans. The Swiss are anyhow already super rich, and they think they are a little bit, you know, xenophobic alpine people. That's nice for them if they can afford, but I'm rejecting their xenophobia. I'm rejecting their protectionism, their kind of insular isolationism, and that's all completely wrong. Also, Switzerland should join NATO. And obviously the Stalin strategy and the Clemenceau strategy of a neutral belt between Germany and Italy, the NATO allies, should not really be our strategy. We should destroy the neutral belt, and it happened now with Sweden and Finland, but now it's time for the three remaining neutrals, and of course no free four in the EU, Malta, Ireland and Cyprus, to join the NATO. And Austria as well, so we have 4, and then we have of course Kosovo and Bosnia and Ukraine, then we have 7, and then we have Moldova and Georgia 9, and obviously we have the EU itself, and then we are now 32 soon, plus just the Hungarians and the Turks have to ratify. That will be expensive because there are pro-Russian blackmailing deals happening in the background by the Turks and by the Hungarians. Outrageous things, but that's the reality. And then we have to go into 42. We are then 42, and once we are 42, there's only Serbia left and Switzerland. And Switzerland one day will see the light as well and join EU and NATO. I hope also, by the way, that Iceland and Norway will join the EU, and then we will enlarge and we will be much bigger, more united continent, yeah? And a political union of significance. And the French will be less important. That's so important because the French, they are very problematic influence, always pro-Serbian, pro-Russian, and also very protectionist and anti-American. And we have to contain their influence by having more members and outvote them into normality, because otherwise Europe will never work as long as the French can block everything. As you see, in the time of crisis, they are useless. We have the biggest crisis in European post-war history now, I think since 1973. Honestly, that was even worse, when the Western world, the gold standard, the oil shock, the Yom Kippur War, the Vietnam loss, Nixon gone, you know, it was a disaster year 73, and that's of course very, very dramatic. But since 50 years at least, let's say, the worst crisis, you can always say the worst crisis since 1960s, 1970s. It was also very bad in the 70s, yeah. But nevertheless, it's a really very big crisis, and the French, their nuclear power, famed and so essential, is not working. Their nuclear deterrent they don't want to use. Their military is not supplying Ukraine. Their financial spending to Ukraine is just 0.5% of their defense budget, like Germany spending 5 times more in relation to their defense budget, and so. You have basically, they always want to make peace. Mr. Macron went to Moscow to basically start the war. Because of his visit, then it was clear that such a useless French president will never defend Ukraine, and Putin got a laughing attack, and he attacked in reality. Because with Scholz and Macron, nobody is afraid. Such useless pushovers as the both. Of course, for Putin, he said they are completely useless, and the whole guy he fought in New York, in Washington, is also useless. But he was a bit mistaken with the old guy in Washington, because Mr. Biden is the classical old cold warrior. He knows to hedge his bets, but he knows when you need to fight the fight. And he is defeating Putin. And Macron and Scholz are utterly useless relicts of the left past of Europe. And I'm really so disappointed. Anyhow, Macron, the only thing you can say about Macron is twice his whole political career is that he is a bit nicer than Mrs. Le Pen, and so he got 10 years in power of the most important country in Europe, of a nuclear power, and he has utterly wasted it. He is the disgrace of all European reformers. I'm finished with him since a long time. Anyhow, that is sad as it is. But we will overvote him and we will neutralize the French, Serbian and Russian influence, and then we will simply outvote them in the EU, which is enlarged and has more votes. And this is 51 kilometers to my hometown Linz, but I can unfortunately not stop because my mission is to go to Vienna today and to put all my stuff to Vienna, and then I have to go back tomorrow to Passau, because Mr. Macron has not finished the internal market. I don't blame everything on him, but you know, if somebody without ambition for completion of Europe is in power in France, no, that's not a surprise. They never liked Europe. They always wanted to occupy it and to dominate it, but to turn it into a French Europe, and that's unacceptable. We don't want to speak French. We don't want to be French. We don't want to speak German in Europe. We want to speak English. We want to be free like the Americans. We want to be united and successful as the Americans. We don't want to be a French Europe or a German Europe or a Polish Europe. No, nobody wants that. Yeah. Maybe Mr. Kaczynski or Macron or somebody, Mr. Scholz, I don't know, or the AfD, some socialist and nationalist. But the normal people, they want to speak English in Europe as a communication language. They want to move freely, work where they can. They want to earn a lot and have little taxes, and they want to be unmolested from the authorities. They want to live in security and peace guaranteed by NATO, and that's what. And they want to include all Europeans, because we are not the exclusive club, and we want to trade with all peaceful people. Yes. From Mexico to Chile to Brazil. Yes, we don't want to be somehow anti-Brazilian or anti-Indonesian populists just because of some fake environmental concerns of cacao and Nutella and palm oil or Amazonas. Just normal trading relations regulated by competent trade experts from the EU Commission. Yes, and then you have to make an agreement with the other side, and then it's a deal, yeah? And that's the basis then for decades of prosperity. And not palm oil populism against the poor Indonesians, or somehow imposing European environmentalism on Brazil out of context, yeah? Of course they must do something, of course, yeah? But in the reasonable limit of the acceptable for their society. And for our societies, and if it's too much, then it doesn't work, because it takes two to tango in trade, obviously. Anyhow, the racist period, the xenophobe period, the protectionist period in Europe must be over, and we must return to freedom and to decency, of course based on good governance, on regulated markets, on reasonable governance and reasonable trade deals. But that's what the EU is about. Anyhow, all these concerns are all already inside the EU. It's far from a free market experiment or something like that. We must go back to decency, and that is of course to have regulated, decent trade agreements, and to have more Europeans inside our structures, the EU, NATO, the Euro, and the internal market, the energy union. Still not completed, because every prime minister gets a kickback from Russia for his gas deals, and then they say, oh no, I don't want to do that with Brussels because my gas deals are so lucrative. Schüssel and Schröder, they all earn a lot of money, make some millions on the side with Russian kickbacks, or get some board memberships for keeping Austria dependent, and then everything is so cool for them. You see how many trucks they are coming from the east. This is not only Austrian trucks going to Germany. This is from Turkey, from Greece, from the Balkans, from Romania, from Ukraine. And This is an arteria of prosperity, and Austria has only built it on 2 lanes. Are you not ashamed? Here, truck by truck, prosperity in line. This is the pumping arteria of the European prosperity. People trading goods between East and West. That's the Silk Road. That's the reality. We need to extend it. Why do we need China to build highways and railways in Europe? I cannot understand. Why we need to give China stakes in handling Hamburg or Piraeus? If we are so useless and we cannot give it to the EIB, I propose since years now to have European-wide state-owned companies. If we don't have the capital, a big car market, then let's sell it to the EIB. The European Investment Bank can own a company, the European Ports Limited, or the European Railway Limited, or European Energy, or European Nuclear, and they can operate, and the shareholders can be the states, or some of them the private sector as well, and big companies, and we can have a decent, we can do such things. We are not so useless as Mr. Scholz thinks. But before they do European companies, they better sell it to the Chinese state companies. It's also state companies, the Chinese. Coscom or whatever it's called, And it's a Chinese state companies, but we cannot form a European ports management company. That's so logical. Anyhow, it's getting too late and I'm getting too excited. I will leave you now. Thanks a lot. Support Pax Europiana. I reached now 1010 subscribers. If you can subscribe, I'm very happy. And please also, I have now a name channel, Günther Fehlinger Pax Europiana, and that's my call sign on YouTube. I reached this 1000 mark. Thanks a lot for all subscription. And I will now in the winter also do more audio podcasts again, and I'm very much looking forward to more content and more European reform items here on my channel for peace, prosperity and unity of Europe in NATO, EU, the Euro, and with good infrastructure and real unity, and against xenophobia, protectionism, anti-Semitism, hate and war and Russia and Iran. Thanks a lot, all the best. More to come from Pax Europiana. Bye.